Nominate Peter Strife III. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, we want to make it legal. I don't want you to go back out.
I second the nomination.
Okay. I guess all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Peter, you can't object. You're it.
All right.
I don't know if you have a copy of the agenda
I do.
Do you have an agenda published?
Well, basically.
Okay.
Let's send one out.
I don't think I received one.
Sorry.
Hi, Jack. Oh, wait. Jack, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ooh, look at that.
Can you hear me?
We can. Okay, so you're on the table. I'll just introduce you to people who are here. We have Xander to my left. You don't need to see them, but you can see Jack.
I can see.
And Peter was just, and I'm sorry, I'll forgo last names if you don't mind. Except yours, because I can't remember your first, and I see your last. Derek, that's right. Derek, who's the police chief, and we met earlier. And then I've forgotten the name of the person who's recording this for the public use. And there's the guy over here who's always over here.
Stuart.
Yeah,
Evening.
One.
Hello. Sorry I couldn't be there with you.
Hey, it's the way it goes. Everything.
Yep.
I'm going to turn off my cameras, and you can turn off yours, and that way we can just do this, and you're not looking at him, and we don't need that. Okay. Do you have a copy of the agenda that I can have?
Could you email that to him, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a techie guru, and I assume Xander's pretty good too. But
Do you
this,
have my email
What
address?
is your email?
I am J Goldstone, Goldstone. I apologize, this is very long.
That's okay.
At Goldstone Architecture. .com, and then Jack, well, I can just forward it to Jack when I get it. That way you don't have to do his, type that in twice, because it's the same with a different first name.
Jay Goldstone at goldstonearchitecture.com.
Yeah. Thank you.
All one word.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been talking about shortening it for 13 years. We're never going to do it.
Maybe people didn't think about when the internet started.
Well, 13 years ago, it wasn't new. It was available. That was what was available. Is this then the entire committee?
other than Scott and Steve. Scott
Steve, I
Bushy
remember.
is the facilities manager. I told him about the meeting, and unless he got tied up on something else, I didn't think I had to get back to him but whatever. And we can show him the recording. And then Steve Avison is at a doctor's appointment in Boston right now, so he may call in when he gets out of that meeting. And I believe that's all the committee, wasn't there? At this time, it doesn't mean we can't add more people, but as we see necessary.
And Jack, I just forwarded you the agenda. I haven't received it on my computer yet, but
Did you get?
I got it on my phone, not my computer. It's just
Okay.
It's just
It always seems to go to the phone first.
it does seem to do that, yeah. But so I sent it on to Jack, but I'll have it here in a moment.
So do we need to elect it says here, vice chair, minute taker as well? Does that have to be official?
It's up to you guys.
But we have our minute taker already.
Well, we should make it official.
Okay.
I talked to him about it, but I didn't. I'm not making any decisions. I just wanted to get the meeting started so that we could start and start gaining some headway. So it's up to you, Peter.
Well, then I nominate Xander to be vice chair / minute taker secretary.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right, and we're not going to let him vote it. Yeah, we're against it.
Yeah.
All right.
And then
There's no. What's the next meeting date or time? Are we going to do it at 6 every time?
I don't know. I guess we got to see what we got to do to become productive.
Right.
Correct?
There's no old business.
No.
So, new business? The only thing is set next meeting, a new business. And
Well,
both
I can certainly, Jack, you still there?
Yeah.
I haven't lost you. Okay, did you receive the agenda? It's pretty minimal. So new
Yeah,
business.
yeah, I have it, yep.
I still haven't gotten it on my computer for some reason. So, for those three of you who are not involved in, were you present at all of our presentations?
I was.
And you've read the findings we've presented. Okay.
Yes.
So you're familiar with everything we've
Yes.
done.
Yeah.
But for the two of you who were not, we were hired to perform a feasibility study initially, and then work on the design, and eventually be responsible for the administration of the contract for construction all the way through your occupancy of this new building. And we got to some stumbling blocks early on in not early in the feasibility study, but along the way. And so the feasibility study sort of has given we don't know yet if it's feasible, that at the end of our completion of the feasibility study. And there are a number of specific items in that I would say we should discuss initially.
Do you have a copy of that?
I do. I have it on my computer,
Okay.
and I can forward.
Yeah, you have my email.
Well, actually, it's huge because of all the attachments. It's like 12 attachments. So let me do this, since Jack's sitting at a computer as well. You know what? I'll just take down.
I have them all up, Jeff, if you can project up onto the
On there?
TV on the wall there, I can pull them up,
Yeah,
share.
that would be easier than my doing it.
That's why I figured we'd have it here.
Yep.
Here's a who to.
Yeah, and I need a little adapter. Oh, I don't need
No,
an
we
adapter
got you
for that.
covered.
You are.
Jeff, we're on top of it.
You got me. All right.
Problem is, if somebody has to get out of here in a hurry, they're gonna trip over a computer somewhere, one
Yeah.
way or the other here.
Yep. Just don't go through this way.
Let's say everything. Throw an IV in.
Do I have to turn that on?
I'm trying.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying.
Give me a second. And I then need to share the meeting. There's Jack.
Oh.
So that's the meeting.
Let's see, probably if somebody hadn't unplugged it, it would help considerably.
We'll do it.
Well, maybe that'll work better. Obviously, we need more plugs in the wall. Hey, look at that.
All right.
And I think we're on,
You always have to
I think we're
navigate
on
to-
number one, input one. We get.
Stuart's the high-tech guy here. So
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
seems to have just connected.
There you go.
You see Jack?
Nope.
Yep,
No, they don't see you
Oh,
here.
We're trying
they
to,
don't see me yet.
You'll know when they see you because.
yeah, I'm trying to get to HDMI, but I don't know why. What did I do? I don't want. Settings, maybe?
Home. TV inputs.
There we go.
Yeah.
Jack, if you can go to your view, the view button in the upper right-hand corner and share your screen so you don't have to see all the background. I think there's a way to do that so that you don't have to see all the.
Like that?
Yep.
Hey.
Up in that upper right-hand corner where it says view.
View, I don't have a view
Right
here.
above your. You don't. We see on
So
your
it's not
screen-
just me that's technologically challenged.
No, for sure.
You see where you have the settings and the view in the upper right-hand corner of your screen that you're sharing with us.
On your smaller screen.
Change settings.
Go to the.
That one?
No, on the right-hand side, all the way to the right.
That is all the way on the right. Change settings.
I don't see your cursor, so.
Oh, you're talking about the blue beam
If you go-
settings?
Yes, I am. If you go to view, I think there's one that's called presentation.
Right.
No.
No.
The other pull down. Not the R, but the view
Right next to it.
screen. Up there you go.
There you
I think
go.
there's one called presentation at the bottom. There you go. And that'll, I believe, if it works, which it seems not to have.
All right, now I have to share a different screen. Hold on.
Oh my God, there he is. Good thing you're not in your pajamas.
There you go. That's
There we
better.
go. How's that? Is that
Yeah,
better?
now let me just get rid of that part of the screen. I think I can get rid of us. Maybe I can't get rid of us. And then you'll just see this screen. I think there's a way to do this. I'm sorry, we're not more.
Well, don't worry about it. It's just we're learning.
Yeah. It's showing. Yeah. All right, well, anyway, you can see it well enough, I think.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it. I don't know if it's big enough. I think it probably is. There is the,
Could we turn one of those lights off? Is that gonna leave us in the dark, Amanda? I know it did the other night when we had them all turned off, but it would be better for us to be able to see that.
On one of them or both?
I think this one on, I think works okay. At least it doesn't glare for me. Is it okay for you guys?
Yep.
Okay, is that all right?
Yep.
Good, thank you.
Do you want them to see it? Because I can't see it.
You can't see any of it?
If I turn the light off, I can.
Okay.
there we go, that's better.
A little better.
All right, Jack, I think we got it as good as we can have it on my end. I don't know if you have working on your end.
It didn't refocus. Well, you can try to turn that other light back on. I'll move to a different place. It was all glary for me. I'll move over here by
Oh, look at
there.
that.
Would that be better for you? Being a little more perpendicular?
The other way. Look off.
Want that?
Oh,
Oh, there you go, all right.
We'll get
Now
there.
we're sitting in the dark, Jack, so.
sorry.
So this is the cover page of the feasibility study, and I would like it, I mean, as the building committee, it would be helpful to us if you are familiar yourself with the entire content, so we can send a link to the downloads of the whole thing, because it's probably 100 pages of stuff. Yeah, it represents a fair amount of work, but as I said, it sort of illustrates that there are some questions at the end of all that. And most of the questions that we were left with. Well, Jack, do you have the notes from our meeting today in front of you?
No, but I can walk through this.
Yeah,
I
if you
mean,
wouldn't mind.
basically we put together an architectural program based on, conversations with the board about, basically wish list for what they want out of this facility. And so we put together an architectural program that's part of an attachment to the feasibility study, and that basically describes everything that the board and everyone involved in the project asked for in terms of space, particular elements of the building that were needed, the idea of reusing the building versus demolishing the existing building versus demolishing it and rebuilding new. And we came up with an architectural program that outlined everything that we want to, get in this building. And I think it came up to something, I forget what the square footage was, but it was, let me see. This is only the overall feasibility study. I have to pull the attachment up, and for some reason when I'm in this mode, this presentation mode, I can't switch to another window. So anyway, we can look at that in a minute. But we visited the site. We measured the existing building. We looked at the site existing conditions. We put together an existing. Well, we reviewed what documents the town had as far as the existing site plan from the last expansion of the building or renovation of the building, and we had a structural engineer review the existing building to determine whether it could be reused if we deemed that to be an appropriate way to move forward. We had a civil engineer review the site and look at the site constraints in terms of utilities, in terms of access off the highway, in terms of things like the river corridor and other potential site considerations that would restrict the area that we would be able to build in, to be able to see how we could lay this building out and include everything in there that we want. We looked at all the condition of the building, whether we could reuse finishes, that kind of thing, HVAC systems, all the systems of the existing building. We did a preliminary code review and permitting requirements for the potential future building, and developed from that essentially what the site constraints and permitting requirements would be for this new facility. So that was, everything from zoning to flood hazard regulations to building code, life safety, et cetera, accessibility. We looked at all those from a bird's eye view, essentially, just really high level impacts from code and regulations. And then we sort of looked at a bunch of conceptual designs. We have an example of a floor plan that kind of put everything together in sort of relationship to each other that we thought was going to work. It wasn't, it's not a design, it's more like a bubble diagram. It sort of puts everything together to see how it would relate to each other. And we had a bunch of plans that contemplated a one-story building versus a two-story building because, this particular site has a pretty significant, I think it's 8 or 9 foot drop from the northwest to the southeast when you consider access from the highway, the elevation of the highway. So that puts a particular constraint on the project. We understood that there's likely wetlands in the northwest corner, and we looked at options on how to, utilize the site, whether the wetlands were going to be, something we would need to stay away from, or whether or not, if they turned out to be wetlands that didn't need a setback, we could, see how that impacted the site.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Sorry, you didn't mention, we did also have a civil engineer on our team. The civil engineer has walked the site, has helped us with site layout, conceptual site layouts. They discovered some of the issues, which obviously we hired them to do, related, for instance, they were the ones, I think, initially who said, this looks like it could be a wetlands, we have to do a wetlands determination. And as much as we don't want it to be a wetlands, we don't want to say the word wetlands, it's a reality in Vermont. If you have wetlands, we have to address that much better to address it in advance than. And then also, I don't know if you had not gotten into it yet, but the town zoning ordinance, we also reviewed in detail. And we're going to show you a site plan in a minute that sort of summarizes our findings, I think, of all this. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, so and then basically we summarized, what basically were the impediments at this, stage that we really couldn't move beyond without getting additional information on. One of the things that we found out was that the survey that was provided from the previous construction project or the original was inaccurate in ways that, didn't match the existing conditions that were out there. So, that had, us with, sort of concern about understanding whether or not some of the conceptual designs that we put together would really work, because we weren't 100% sure of the accuracy of some of the information on the site plan that was provided to us, and we don't have otherwise any real existing conditions site survey that we could work from. So that's a limitation that we feel is really going to be critical moving forward, because there are a lot of site constraints on this site, and if we're not working from something that is realistic in terms of an overall site plan survey, then what we're trying to anticipate just means that there's that much more risk and in the unknowns going forward. The second thing was the fluvial erosion hazard area, or what they call river corridor.
Maybe we should go ahead and throw the plan up and talk about it.
Yeah, in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to stop the presentation mode and go into the regular mode.
I think we should still do that. I can point to these things and we can answer questions. It's a little dry looking at this after a while, and
I agree. Okay.
And actually, you know what? This is, if you could just go into this. Oh no, you can't, because you're looking at the server. Right?
No, I have to just change my screen that I was sharing. So hold on a sec.
You can look at everything behind him on the shelves. See what books he's reading.
Okay. All right. So
Oh, I got it.
Let's see. So basically, can you see the site plan now?
Yeah, but go back to presentation mode, we'll have a better view.
Excuse me?
Go back to presentation and we'll have a better view, if that's okay.
Review box, there you go.
He's getting good at it now.
Yeah, he's pro.
Yeah, but now I got to switch screens again.
Oh, I see. Oh,
So
okay, well,
I get. Is it that much different
No,
for you?
that's
I can
good.
get rid of this window on the left. If that helps.
yeah, a little. Sure, all right. Anyway, that's good enough. I think we can all see that. Can we all see that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so, as we were working through this, we're developing the site constraints. We have a setback based on zoning regulations of 40 feet on the front of the property. We have a river corridor or river setback from Winhall River here of 100 feet. And I'll point out that this dimension shows as if it's coming from the center of the river, when we learned at a later date that the dimension really should be taken from the top of the bank. So this restraint is actually a little bit more significant than what's shown here. And again, because this site plan is not really that realistic, or it's not a survey that we can rely on, we don't know exactly how accurate that line is. We have an existing septic system here that we are going to try to reuse and or expand upon, but also, even if we have to replace it, our civil engineers have told us that, from a permitting perspective and a ability to put in a regular septic system, the fact that there's already a septic system here is the easiest way to understand or be sure that we're going to be able to put a fairly simple new system in the same location. We would have to do test pits and other evaluation for other areas on the site to even know if we could put a septic system anywhere else on here. So we tried to kind of isolate that area as still going to be required for a septic system, whether it's expansion of the existing or replacement of it completely. And we have this area.
It's downhill from the building too, which is always a good thing for the septic system to be. And we can't go closer to the river than that setback line. So those are our limitations.
Yeah, and then this area in blue here is the approximate area of the wetland, and that was just based on an aerial photograph of where the vegetation is. So again, not very accurate, and we don't know whether this wetland would be classified as a wetland, and whether it would be classified as a type 1, 2, or 3, and each of those have different requirements. We, based on our civil engineers, just on it, they sort of recommended that we assume it's a level 2 or a type 2. I can't remember how they call it, but
Class 2.
Class 2, thank you. And that Class 2 has a 50-foot setback off of the area of the wetland. So that's just, again, an estimated area. And what else?
The setback from the road. So we can talk about that. I can let you rest your voice for a second. The setback from the road, which you see here, I can use my cursor. Jack can't see my cursor, but I can. You guys can. That is a 40-foot setback from the property line, and we do believe the property line is fairly accurately depicted based upon, I think it says a 47-foot to the center line, which would be a 94-foot highway, which I believe is 12 rod or something like that. It sort of correlates.
16.5 feet per rod.
So whatever number 97 into 16.5 is. 16.5 into 97. Was that 8? 7? 7. About 7. Anyway, we did this calculation a year ago, and not quite a year ago. It made sense at the time. That may or may not be right, and we have been, in our presentations, led to believe that the town of Winhall would, through whatever mechanism, not enforce or not require us to abide by that setback. That was given to us after the feasibility study was completed, but nonetheless, that may or may not be able to be changed. So, if this is the property line here,
that setback might not be necessary, which would be obviously give us a lot of additional usable space. Another thing that's in your zoning ordinance says that parking should not be, although it's not required, I think it should not be in front of the buildings, between the buildings and the right-of-way. Obviously it is now. Obviously it is in this building. That too was going to be something that we would look at as, can we, because there could be a lot of parking associated with this building if the program doesn't change, because we had a very large meeting room, I think a 60-person meeting room. And if you have a 60-person meeting room, you need parking for those 60 people. That parking has to go somewhere on the site. If that parking can't go in front of the building, and if the building can't go into that zoning, that setback, then we were even more restricted. But if we can use that setback, and if we can not have to be restricted on the parking, I mean, we can still achieve the parking, it would benefit us in terms of the usable or the buildable area of the site. So buildable area for all of these constraints became a major issue for us. And that's what we have to work through, or one of the things we have to work through.
Yeah, so what we would recommended in the, at the summary of the report, the feasibility report, was to have a real site survey done so that we could produce an existing conditions site plan, which would include contours that were accurate to the existing site conditions as they currently are. Because, you know, these restrictions that are being placed on the buildable area on the site, if you're not dealing with an existing site plan that's accurate, it's really not, you know, going to help you. You know, it's too risky. The second thing with the fluvial erosion hazard area, we were hoping to get a river scientist to take a closer look at that, because basically when you look at the flood hazard map for this area from the state's A&R website, this big wide yellow swath is the river corridor, or the fluvial erosion hazard area, and you can see that, you know, 60% of the site is covered by this this hazard area. And essentially the flood regulations, the town of Winhall's flood regulations, say that you can't you know, develop that area with new construction. So it obviously would put a significant, I mean, basically would mean you couldn't do the project on this site. But we've also we also understand that there's potentially opportunity to get a river scientist in here to look at this much more closely, specifically to the site itself, because when the state goes through and does these, you know, they don't really take much time to evaluate the specific site conditions to really determine where that line should be drawn on this particular site.
And let me pipe in again. This is separate from the FEMA designation, okay? FEMA flood zone designation is a separate thing.
Yeah, this is the FEMA map.
Right, which we had from the beginning. This is the FEMA map. But when you go back to the fluvial hazard area, that not only can it be done, the state actually will, with no cost to the town, no cost to the owners, will evaluate the accuracy of that related to your own property. It was recommended very strongly to us, however, that having the state do it has two negative consequences. One is time, and one is they're not on your team to start with. They're not necessarily on your team. Having a river scientist do the work for us, they're going to be looking out for our, granted, it's still science, right? There's still formulas they have to apply. So it's not like he can just change it, I think, you know, just because he thinks we're good guys and he wants to make it better for us. But they can come in and they can reevaluate. This, I mean, this is the post-construction aerial photograph, and whether or not they have post-construction elevations to work with, I mean, post-construction of the existing building. We know that when they built this building, there was a lot of land movement, and there's quite a steep fall off between the building and the river. We were led to believe that that has a significant effect on this, what we would get as a revised or improved version of this document.
Also, the type of soil, in other words, if this is all ledge here,
That's right.
you know, that it's very likely that the river wouldn't be able to, you know, carve its way into where it's shown in the yellow on the north side. You know, so it has a lot to do with the type of soil and the erosion, you know, the erosion potential of that soil. So they would do more evaluation specific to the soil type on the site to see how that would affect the river's movement.
That's what this is.
But we've also talked to a couple of civil engineers and other river people that have said that because there's an existing structure here, that obviously you don't want the river to, you know, overtake this existing structure, and they allow you to, in some cases, they allow you to build, you know, expand on an existing structure as long as you're not building more towards the river. So if you drew a line between this structure and this structure and this structure and this structure, essentially you can, you know, we've been led to believe that you can, you would be allowed to build on the non-river side of that line, you know, and expand and develop that area in terms of, you know, expanding the building, let's say, to this side or this side on that side of the line.
And
so there's potential, but it all has to be kind of worked through with the right people.
And parking and paving can be done potentially on the riverside without being in violation of the requirements. So there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to go on to really determine what the buildable area of the site ends up being. And that, okay. Jack?
Yeah. So then the other thing is the budget for the project. We did a rough, you know, we call it opinion of probable construction cost, architect's opinion of probable construction cost, and it's really a broad stroke, you know, opinion of what this project might cost. And I think it's right up here. Yeah. So we had estimated somewhere between 8.8 million to 10 million for this entire project. And I think when we first, you know, presented the feasibility study to the board, that was, you know, that was a little bit of a shock or you know, concern, let's say, that, you know, a $10 million project is maybe something that wasn't going to be able to be affordable. So I think it's really, you know, important that before we get into the next step of looking at a schematic design, you know, what is a realistic budget for this project? Sorry, I'm jumping around, but because really that helps us, you know, tailor a project, you know, to a realistic budget in a way that we didn't do in this first feasibility study. Essentially, the program that we developed was everything that the town wanted, you know, and that's great as a starting point, but if that really is going to cost $10 million and the town doesn't think, you know, they can move forward with a $10 million project, and the town says, well, realistically, we better be in the, you know, $6 million range or whatever it is, you know, then that obviously speaks to the need to go back into the program and determine, you know, what are the must-haves versus the wants, you know, and start to, you know, really hone in on realistically what can the town afford to do on this site. And there's so many variables, it's very difficult to know very specifically what the cost of the project is, but those are the tools we have to kind of work with, is to just, you know, use square foot numbers that we see in our everyday, you know, work and our everyday jobs that are coming in right now, project those to a future time when this building would be, you know, potentially planned for construction. And sort of work back from there. So that's kind of really important that the town be realistic about what the budget for this project is.
And so let me just, when you get the report and when you have a chance to revisit it, and even for the two of you who had spent a lot of time with this report before, and just take a look at that program and say, yeah, these are the absolutes, these are the wanna-dos, these are the, oh, come on. And there's gonna be some of those, I'm sure. And then we have obviously a more
There's
realistic.
a wish list and a absolutely necessary.
But we didn't present it that way. We presented it as, this is the whole thing, which is how we agreed that we would do it in advance. And the term architectural program is a term of art to some degree that we use all the time. It's just a written list of what we understand the desires of the client are and what we think are important to recognize in those. For instance, the bathrooms have to be near the conference room because you might want to close that off. So that would be a proximity thing that's in the program, or the number of square feet that we think things are going to need to service, to provide the service or to provide the program that you want. So we have those things in there. So our program, this one obviously has notes on it from, I guess, internal notes that we put on. But this is the program. It's about 4 pages long, looking like this.
Yeah, this is the program, and so like I said, it identifies the spaces and the square footage requirements, and so for the fire department, we came up with about 10,000 square feet, and for the police department, about 4,000 square feet, and then we have the public and common shared areas as around 3,000 square feet. So, 17,000 square foot overall building, based on 18,000 when you add in the miscellaneous stuff. So that that 18,000 square foot building, I mean, that might not be what you need or what's absolutely necessary. So, going back into this and revising this according to what the budget is, sort of working backwards from the budget.
And one of the other things that we have in here, and it complicated the report, I think, to the point of exhaustion to some degree, is do we want to try to save some or all of that building? Our report from the structural engineer is that the concrete is fine. And the rest of the building doesn't have much value to us. The way it's divided up is not the way it wants to be divided up. Maybe there's some walls that could remain, but the concrete could easily remain. But the limitations that we might be imposing on, by saving that concrete on our design, may in fact make it a more expensive building to save the concrete than not. So our opinion, and Jack, please correct me if you disagree, but we talked about this today. Our opinion is that if we can save the concrete, if it makes sense, it's fine, let's do it. But if it is feasible. But if it is a limitation that either makes the building not work as well, or for some reason we think the building would be even more expensive in order to manipulate it in such a way as to save it, then rebuilding the building from scratch is probably a better option. It certainly gives us more flexibility, obviously. However, I will also point out that, as Jack said, if it turns out that the rationale for our being able to build in that site at all is that there is an existing building that we are going to reuse, then that should be a consideration as well, because if we tore that building down, would the state then say, well, that line that we were trying to draw is no longer valid? I don't think that's the case, but something else we should think about.
And can this be done in stages?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. We really weren't asked to examine that.
Okay.
But stages.
Well, I'll say one of the things that we talked about and was an advantage to leaving the existing building was the ability of construction to begin on an addition that would still allow the existing building to remain in use, if not,
right.
If not completely, at least partially, for a period of time. So it would sort of reduce the downtime or the impact to operations
That would be,
to a certain degree.
That would be a phased construction, but it would not really be stages like a 2026
But
building.
if you're talking about phasing over a few years or something like that, that's something that we could
look at.
talk about and see if there's a way to do that. But you'd have to kind of make decisions about what would be the things you would put off to a future phase, and maybe it's like two out of the 5 bays of the garage or something like that, or the fire department garage, might be a future phase. But you don't get the same, value out of your dollar that way, but it might be something that if it's necessary that we would have to look at. It adds a level of, complexity and to it. And many times, it becomes harder, later after you've gone through such a giant, undertaking of doing the project, getting all the approvals and getting the town, behind the project, and, then, to try to come back to the well, 2 years later or 3 years later to do another project is not going to be, as easy, or I won't say easy, but I mean, it just makes it that sort of more challenging at that later time as well.
I mean, a possibility maybe was going through your mind, and certainly now it's going through mine, would be like the police department doesn't move now, we increase the fire department and then bring the police department down there later. But either you have to then really consider the disadvantages associated with that in terms of the overall finished product, and weigh that against the advantages, which would be trying to reduce the cost initially. It's hard right now, just at the top of my mind, to think of that as a big advantage, but it's possible. And also something, and Jack, I think, has gone to one of, you can see this as conceptual design option 1A. It's exhibit 12. There, I think, are 7 different versions here, and they're confusing if you just look at them, that there is an order to them. One of the things we talked about was the potential for reuse in the existing garage bays for the police department, because it's a smaller garage, but they need a smaller garage, and then have a brand new one for the fire department, and that would work against the phasing as well, perhaps.
So these are just very loose concept designs to, see how a building would lay out on the site that would be able to house 17,000 square feet with the access, for the variety of different vehicular accesses and pedestrian accesses to the building, with the change in grades and everything else. So these are really, loose concept designs. With the limitations that we came up with in the feasibility study, with a variety of different options, in some options are saying that the wetlands don't count, and some of them are saying that we do need to, respond to the wetlands setbacks. So these are really, more like to show the variety of different designs that could work on this site, but without having more information about the existing conditions of the site, the river corridor, or the fluvial erosion hazard area, and the wetlands. It's very difficult to know if any of these are really, valid. So that's really,
in fact,
I think
the fluvial erosion hazard, if you overlay that over any of these, the one that the state has on their website would not allow any of this construction, right? So that's just the first thing we have to resolve, I think, to just say that this is feasible. And then all the other ones, these are various ways of addressing the other restrictions. However, none of these shows construction past the Route 30 setback. The 40-foot setback, front yard setback. The other thing to point out is that we had a preliminary consultation with a VTrans engineer about the highway access points, and they want to limit the access points to a 40-foot wide access to the highway. They would allow the existing one to remain and allow one additional, but both of them have to be limited to 40 feet. So, if you have a 5-bay garage for the fire department trucks,
you have to kind of funnel down to a 40-foot wide access point. We can't just have that, 80 feet, 90 feet wide driveway, go directly onto the highway, unfortunately.
So Stuart, wait, Jack, Stuart Short and I just want to point out, however, if we talked about the advantage of moving the fire station or the fire department garage closer to the highway, and you want to be able to park all of your engines in front of the garage bays, you don't want to have to, 3-point turn them in, then it speaks against the ability to get all the way out there to actually move the garage closer to the highway. So that's the limitation of those 40 feet, pushes the garage bays further from the highway. And as I say, it's what you have now, and it works.
Yeah.
They have to go single file once they get on the road anyway.
Yeah.
The other thing to mention is that one of the desires of the fire department was to have the garage bays with access to both front and back, overhead doors, front and back. So you're double loading them. You can pull a vehicle out the back without having to pull another vehicle out to get out. But the site constraints are pretty limiting in terms of that ability. But again, we really don't know what we can do until we know what the actual site constraints on the property are, and that we have a realistic representation of this existing site conditions. So you see here that we sort of anticipated on this one that maybe we could get 2 or 3 of the garage bays to have a access to the backside here with a turnaround to get in and out from the backside. But it's speculation. A lot of it is really speculation at this point, because we don't have a good we don't have a lot of faith or that our site plan is reliable. It really is. We found so many discrepancies between what was on site versus what this site plan actually showed, that really caused us to be very concerned that we can't represent with any real confidence that a plan would work until we have a true representation of the existing conditions.
I'm going to jump in again. So that includes things like the configuration of the existing parking. That's not a very big deal, but the orientation of the building on the site is if we look at the aerial views and superimpose them on the site, the orientation of the building is not correct. So we know it's not right. This particular, wait, go back to that site again, Jack. Go back from when we had up. I just want to point out that here, again, for no particular reason, this is not so important, but in order to get this to work back here, you can see my cursor, right? That would be a significant retaining wall, because this is much lower than it would be to get in and out of that garage, if that's as high as the driveway.
That was a wish list item.
Yeah, right.
It has to. There are going to be give and takes.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the wish list items might end up evolving into really important ones, and some of the important things might evolve into wish list items. So,
Stuart,
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
can you just point that thing to whatever they have or a screen or whatever so I can see it too? Yeah, okay.
if you want to put it here, I can lean it right up here, and I think.
Yeah, I can see it there.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to hold it.
Stuart's arm can't last that long. How's that?
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Be careful. Be
This
careful.
just Jeff mentioned about the building being oriented different. So this is an overlay of a pencil drawing that was put onto the site plan that we had with tracing paper, and then laid over an aerial image of the actual site. And you can see that the orientation of the building is significantly off from what it actually is, and that the parking area is substantially different than what it showed on the site plan. And there's a variety of other things For instance, the building plan showed, and the site plan with the elevation contours and everything, that it was all a slab at the same elevation, when we actually know that the building has a 3-step difference between the garage bays and the office wing there. So there was a variety of things that really just, said to us we can't really rely on the accuracy of that existing site plan, and we really need to get a surveyor to do an actual real survey for existing conditions. Here's the indication of this plan. Not this is actually what's there. So anyway, just wanted to. What other questions or about the sort of feasibility and next steps do people have?
Well, we haven't started talking about next steps quite yet, but I think once we've sort of I think you've gotten a good summary of this. There's a whole lot more detail in that report. I think, Jack, with this, we've touched base on most of the things that we wanted to touch base on that came out of that. Stuart, do you have any other ones that you can?
I think that the floodway, or the irregular flood zone and all is a big factor, because if that rules it out, then there's no point in going much further.
That's right.
But so I think that's a key, and then obviously the wet area, I'm not calling it a wetland, a wet area is to get that addressed to see if it is. Because that would make a difference on our thing, and to see if we could, if our setbacks really have to be 90 feet from the center of the road. Because there was some talk that our town listed 40 foot back from the 50-foot setback of the state may not need to be observed. We may be able to encroach on that.
And I think those are all exactly first step.
I think those are the first steps, personally.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that's just
So
what
to the, obviously one of those is entirely local, and you guys know, we actually have an email from, she always sits right there, from Lucia, thank you, from Lucia.
Lucia Wing, yeah.
Who says, and we're not quite sure because of the way she phrased it, it says something like
Here, I'll read it. I have it right in front of me here, Jeff. She said, the zoning board of adjustment can issue a variance to the front setback provided it meets the criteria. I cannot speak to the 5-member board, but they are fair provided all is in order. So I think it gives us hope that that's possible to get a variance that would say that we don't have a 40-foot yard setback that we have to respect. So. But I'm sure there's going to be some hoops to jump through to make that happen in reality.
But that was the exact quote we got. It was clear in the meetings here that she wanted us, and I think other members of the select board wanted us to assume that we could, not violate, I don't want to say that, but we could get a variance for that, or the town could, whatever would have to be done.
There's a possibility that we could do something.
Right. In terms of the cattails and the implications of having cattails, as well as the fluvial erosion zone, we had a proposal from Fitzgerald Engineering Company that we, and also the civil engineers, have worked with in the past. And because of the time of year, which was very early spring of this year, he was willing to come out and do the work very quickly, and like literally that week. And I could ask him to respect the numbers he gave us. I have not called him up, but we could certainly have him give us a new proposal if necessary to do that work. It's apparently not a huge lift, because he would said at the time that he could do it, I don't remember exactly, but in a couple of weeks that he could get that done.
I think one of the problem was that it was over our set fee of not having to get bids. The problem is that it's going to be very hard to get bids because all of the civil engineers are just out straight. I've been trying to hire one for a personal project,
Yeah.
and I can't find one. But if we put it out to bid and we don't get any bids, then we can, I believe, we have the authority to pick someone.
Okay.
That is.
Well, he would probably bid it. If we called him up, he would bid it. And their specialty, and he might be a civil by license. But
I
it's
may
a
have said
specialty
that.
item, yeah.
Yeah, right.
The other thing is a survey, and we did have a surveyor, the civil engineer we had in our team, and they have provided you services already and have billed for those services and been paid for those services. They have survey crew, and they had given us a proposal to do survey work. Perhaps they don't have to be back on the market because we already have a contract with them, I don't know, but we could also put that out for bid if necessary. And I have the bids, I don't have them in front of me right now. But that information is critical to taking this the next step. I mean,
Stuart, could since we are under contract with the town for architectural services, and our architectural services include the hiring of engineering consultants, civil engineering, structural engineering, mechanical, electrical, plumbing as part of the overall project. If we hire the civil engineer for these services, are you still required to have it bid out since we're already under contract with you?
I don't dare say, Jack, I'd get myself in trouble. I've gotten myself in trouble pretty easy. I would have to get a reading on that.
Stuart, that sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, it does to me, but that doesn't mean that's what it's going to be voted on.
I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I hear you, Steve, and I think they can hear you too. Yeah, we can bring that up at the next selectmen's meeting and see if the select board agrees to it, because this committee can't spend any money. This is just to review the processes we have to go through and bring it up so that the board can vote on it as to what to do. But yes, I understand your theory, Jack. It sounds great, and we may be able to do that at the next select board meeting if we get some specifics.
It also, this is typical for our projects is that we hire the sub-consultants. I mean, that is typical in the industry. And we already have one of these sub-consultants on our team, so it would be just asking another branch of the same company to do the survey work. They don't do, Jack, do you know whether MSK has a Rivers person on staff now? They've grown so much.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, literally, they probably double in size.
But I mean, it would be they could hire this river scientist as a consultant of theirs. They'd be a sub-consultant to a sub-consultant. And again, I mean, it's not that much different than if they had that river scientist on staff. So it's certainly going to save a lot of time and energy if we can, avoid having to, go out to bid for these engineering services.
And individually, I mean, we're talking about, look, we're talking about a multi-million-dollar project. That's a lot of money. We understand that. It's also a lot of money every time we add to it. I appreciate that. But as a percentage, the river corridor and wetlands mapping was $5,800. That was what the bid was for. And then the wetlands boundary verification by the same company was $900. So, we're not talking about bank-breaking dollar values, but I guess that plus the survey was too much, or that alone was too much. I mean, too much for you to authorize at the time. We'd having to go.
Well, I don't know. I think if those figures still stand true, then you can verify that before our next select board meeting, and we can try to get a consensus at the select board meeting. We now have 5 members to get approval for that possibly at the next meeting.
Stuart, I think this is a good sort of segue to talk about our contract as well. And I'm sure you don't remember but our contract, is broken up into multiple phases. We had this feasibility study phase. We have a schematic design phase, a design development phase, construction documents. These are sort of the standard architectural phases of a project like this. We've completed our feasibility phase based on having the report issued and gotten to a place that maybe we don't necessarily know if the building is feasible here, but we've identified constraints that wouldn't allow us to move forward without knowing anything more. We really can't yet go into schematic design phase because we still have these constraints that are unknown that we need to resolve. We feel like we have this sort of, we're in an in-between between the feasibility study and the schematic design phase, that we would need to work with you to come up with an additional services fee that would include our effort to get us to schematic design, but that would also include our working with these engineering consultants to resolve these issues. So if your plan would be to put something in front of the select board at the next select board meeting, I think we should probably give you a proposal that outlines, the services that we feel are going to be necessary to get us to the schematic design phase. That would be inclusive of a civil engineer and a river scientist to work through these issues that we still need to resolve before we can get to the schematic design phase. Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense.
So we can get that to you next week, probably. And I don't know, when's your next meeting with the...
Next Wednesday.
Wednesday.
All right, as long as you don't need a massive proposal, just a fee proposal.
I don't think so. I mean, I won't know until we get the rest of the board. I mean,
Well, no, I'm just saying, the first proposal we gave you took us weeks to put together. This
I
proposal is
understand.
just a fee and the
right,
explanation.
and this is to move to the next step,
Yeah.
to identify if the site is even doable.
Yeah.
Because right now, we don't know if we can use this.
So we're just to delineate this, we were calling the original one a feasibility study. We ended the feasibility study saying it's not feasible, in effect. We're just sort of calling this pre-construction, or excuse me, pre-design. If we just call it a pre-design phase, then we can just sort of fill in the blanks that we need to do between what we've learned and the next phase.
Yeah.
And that would include the sorts of things we're talking about with focusing in on, on the program, narrowing down the program as necessary to meet a budget. It would include the site information that we need to develop. And it can include other things too. We're not trying to pad this, but I don't think it needs to include any more conceptual design work. I think the next step, we understand that.
Conceptual, until we know that.
Yeah, and we can make that into this. The schematic design can be that. Having you guys as a board or as a group, whatever we call the committee, that can work with us is going to make our lives a whole lot easier. And you don't have to, do you have to post these meetings?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
Yes, but that's okay. I mean, this is all public knowledge.
I'm just thinking about how, are we allowed to call and have conversations with individuals on this board, or
I would...
with the chair, for instance?
And if it's just one, it's not a...
Yeah, I mean, if you were calling each person individually, I mean, because we now have a select board of 5. Okay, there are actually 2 members can talk at any time.
Right.
It's just you can't have 3 together at the same time talking
As long as
about
you-
a town project.
Yes.
Is my understanding. But if you have a question and there's something we can do, then I mean, the main thing is to find out if we can do anything with this site, because
First step.
first step is because we have a building there that is working, but we're trying to plan for the future. And until we decide if this facility, if this piece of property is feasible, we're just spinning our wheels.
Yeah. Well, it's my gut right now that we're going to make it through these 3 different, to get the information on 4 different things. And if we say it's the rivers, the wetlands, the road setback, and the survey. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
which is really not a thing, right? That's just documented. That we're gonna be able to find a solution that meets your program on
That
the
will
site.
make it so we can do something with the
Yeah,
property.
that's my gut, but it's just a gut at this point.
Well, yeah, but you didn't just start. You've done this stuff before.
We have.
You have a fairly good feel.
The fluvial erosion hazard zone, which by the way means if the river were left to go wild, these are the zones that the river might choose to go into. That's what that means. And the town has adopted the state's regulations. That was the town's choice to do. I don't know if the town would ever back off on that.
I think that better said that the town is relying on the state's maps as far as the identification of the fluvial erosion hazard. The town has their own regulations.
Right. It wasn't
But
mandated by the state.
they rely on the state's maps to define the area.
Yeah.
Unless we can prove it wrong. Unless we can prove it wrong.
Right.
Well, right, we can.
Yes, right,
And
right.
we do that, it really is common to have what we call for the FEMA maps, a revision to those maps. So it's that, we do those
I
all
think
the
it's a
time.
letter map of adjustment.
It's the letter of map, yeah, a letter of map adjustment, right?
I'm learning a lot about that.
Yeah, those happen all the time because there are lots of things they don't take into account.
Well,
And I will tell you, frankly.
It's not something they can come out and look at every piece of
Big country.
of property. I mean, they're
Yeah.
using a broad paintbrush.
We have a site in Bennington where quite literally, following FEMA maps, we can move, if we move the building out of the hazard zone, we had a 5-foot wall of water in the flood. If there was a flood, there was going to be a vertical wall of 5 feet of water. But as long as we were outside of that vertical wall, we weren't going to be in the flood zone. So, in that case, it was easier to move the building, and the town was willing to let us do that. Who knows what we'd find in this case? We're not, but it's not a FEMA issue.
Steve, are you able to hear all this so far?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have anything to add? I mean, I don't know if there's much further we can do other than asking Jeff and his agency to give us figures that we can bring to the select board to try to get approval on. Do you have anything to add?
It seems to me that, you can't nickel dime and have free bids on every little single thing. And it sounds like it's all part of it with them.
Right. We've come to a phase where we have to spend a little bit more money to see if this is feasible. If it isn't feasible, then we have to probably go to Green Mountain National Forest to try to find a place to build a building up at Kendall Farm or whatever. But anyways, that's beside the point. So
If it's of any value to you, we have, having built out all of our work, we are $3,220 below the estimate that was approved by the board.
okay.
Because our structural engineer and our civil engineer did not bill all that was in the allowance that was approved for them.
So you've got a little bit of prepay.
Well, no, we can't bill it because it's not what we agreed to.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, so from the original bid, you're saying that we might be under slightly.
Yeah, we came in a little under budget.
Okay, but you can clarify that for our board meeting next week.
I will, I can give you this right now.
No. You give that to
They have-
Peter. He's the chairman.
All right, they have copies of our bills.
Okay.
And if you look at our bills, you will see that based on our last bill, the architects, believe me, we couldn't bill for all of our time, I will tell you that. In all honesty, we've been here a lot of
Well,
times.
thank you, appreciate it.
Well, no, thank you. But both the engineers that were working for us had an allowance, which is an amount of money that said, well, this is what we think it's going to cost. Both of them came in under budget. Not dramatically under budget, but a little bit.
Sorry.
All right, well, that may be all we need to do tonight. I really, as I said, appreciate that you were willing to, the town was willing to put together this committee, because from our perspective, this is going to be something that can work, whereas
to do it all through the select.
It's hard to do it at a select board
Oh, it
meeting
is.
when we're very time constrained. I mean,
Yeah.
but at least I think we have, here should be our next goal. And if we bring it up for the board, then we see how we go from there.
And I don't see why this work is going to take a long time to do. It's a matter of the availability of the sub-consultants we have. I never know with the survey crew, this survey crew, sometimes they'll say we can get to it, they'll say we can get to it this week, and sometimes it's, we're
You don't
booked
know.
for 6 weeks.
It's a tough time of year.
And, yeah, we're through the vacation time of year, which is good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as next meeting, should we wait to see what the select board
Right, I was gonna
does?
say, we'll get the
and then
proposal
get our
and see what gets
information,
approved at the select
hopefully
board.
gets approved and we get.
Well, we can set a meeting if you want now. I'm going to be away for 2 weeks.
I would think that we ought to wait till the select board meeting, see if we get approval.
Yeah,
right.
And then see how
Yes,
long it's
I
going to
agree.
take for you to get your people or
Yeah.
the consultants to do the work, because we really don't have any more information till we get that, I
we get
think.
that information, yeah.
In the meantime, though, if there are questions, especially for the two of you who haven't read through our report in detail, or you guys are looking at it again, we'll get you the report, we'll put it up tomorrow on a Dropbox. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
You guys are allowed to use Dropbox?
I have my own laptop, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm on a committee in Bennington, and the state required us to only use state email addresses because everything you guys do is subject to public scrutiny. And so I guess you guys have your town email addresses.
Right, the state, yeah.
I don't know whether you guys have to or not. That's up to you to do. I don't care, frankly, but all I know is that
I mean, this committee isn't spending any money. This is purely to get the facts together, to try to decide how to move forward.
Yeah.
And it may not sugar out. We may not be able to expand the firehouse. We may be with what we got. We hope
no, I
not.
understand all that.
But,
my point is just, if it's okay to use Dropbox, I'll go ahead and put it up in the Dropbox tomorrow. I need email addresses for you guys. You have mine.
Yeah, and you have mine?
I
sent
do.
you the email.
Yeah, but did I get it?
So
It's on your phone.
we'll give you our email addresses so that you can you'll make a group, I'm assuming. So
Yes.
when we get ready to do one, we can just send an email and ask people to respond back if that works for them.
Yeah, I did get it.
Pretty sure I have them,
But you may, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it
but.
just,
Yep, you can put it all together.
so, yeah, no, I think we've made some good,
Yeah.
some possible headway. We won't know till we get through the meeting next week. And hopefully we can, but if we have some fairly hard figures or basically as to what it's going to cost, then we should be able to come to an agreement one way or the other.
I can do my best.
Stuart, do you want us to be at the select board meeting?
What do you think? I mean, basically this, I assume everybody, all of our board will review this. I don't know for sure, but if we had the proposal said, here's what we need, here's what we decided from the meeting, and here's
Yeah.
what we need to move forward, can the board approve this? Here's what X amount of dollars it's going to do, would be my,
Yep.
I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at you up there. I didn't see you up there.
I just put them up there.
Yeah, okay. But that would at least, I would think that we could go with that. I mean, we could,
Okay.
I assume we
Yeah,
could maybe call you
If you need us,
had
we can be there.
questions.
If you don't, we don't have to be there.
Yeah.
Yep, whatever you
You
want.
said it's Tuesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, next Wednesday.
I assume maybe we could have you on standby and call in if we had questions, just so
Sure.
we don't have to run, because it's fairly cut and dry, I believe. Do you guys agree?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right
Okay.
now,
Yeah.
this part.
Yeah, well,
It's one step.
It'll get less cut.
well, we're taking baby steps. We're just trying to get to the bottom to see if we can do anything with it.
Well, we can put together, we can do our best to have together a proposal in the next couple of days. Today's already Thursday, right? So I'll reach out tomorrow to both of the groups. Jack and I can put together our parts of it easily. And maybe by Tuesday of next week, we can have it all together.
Wednesday at 5.
Yeah, we'll get it to you. We'll get it to you ahead of the meeting.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Personally, I want to thank everybody for spending your time to come and do this. Xander and Peter coming in and stepping up and taking the positions there. And Derek, you spending your time here too. But I'm at least we're hopefully getting moved off dead center.
Yeah, well, it's been believe it or not, since early March.
I know. But I think we're headed in the right direction, and now maybe we can move forward.
Yeah, great.
One way or the other. We'll have to lay the cards out and see how they play out. I mean, because we don't know what the hand is that we're going to be dealt with what we get from the other information, but we got to do it.
Yep.
Yep. So those are the next two steps.
Fantastic. All right. Well,
Thank you.
Anything else?
Jack, we can
All
say
right,
goodbye
I'm
to
gonna
you.
sign off. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
All right.
All right. Is there anything else, Stuart, or?
I don't have anything
Now that
else.
Jack's gone, we can talk about it.
All right, so we'll adjourn until,
I make a motion we adjourn until we have further information from from Goldstone Associates here and bring it to a select board meeting and go from there.
yeah,
Second that.
all in favor?
All right.
All right, we're done.
Recording stopped.